massive colony ship Wandering Star moved slowly through the empty darkness of space. Its metal hull was covered with patches and repairs that had been made over many years. Inside the ship, Captain Veltar walked through the long corridors, his footsteps echoing in the quiet halls. The lights above him flickered weakly, and he knew they would not last much longer. Veltar was old now, much older than he had ever expected to become. His people, the Cathai, had been traveling through space for 3 generations. Their beautiful home planet was gone, swallowed by their dying star, when he was just a young officer. Now he was the captain of the last ship that carried what remained of his entire race. The ship was dying, just like his people. Veltar could feel it in the way the floors vibrated under his feet. The engines were running on the last drops of fuel. The air recycling systems made strange noises. The food machines produced less and less each day. Soon, very soon, everything would stop working. He entered the main control room where his officers waited for him. Their faces looked tired and sad. Zaralyn, the young communications officer, sat at her station, with her head down. Her crystalline skin patches, which normally glowed bright blue when she was happy, now showed only dim gray colors. All the Cathai had these crystal patches on their skin that changed colors with their feelings, and lately, everyone showed the same gray hopelessness. "How many are we today?" Veltar asked, though he already knew the answer would not be good. 47,812, replied Elder Torvas, reading from his tablet. "We lost 18 more this week." Veltar closed his eyes. When they had first left their dying planet, they had been 2 million strong. Disease, accidents, and despair had slowly taken them away, one by one. The young people were not having children anymore. What was the point of bringing new life into a ship that was falling apart? The council meeting that day was like all the others. The same voices saying the same things they had said for months. Some wanted to find a planet, any planet, and try to make a new home there. Others said they should keep searching for a perfect world, like the one they had lost. A few, the ones whose crystal patches had turned permanently black, said they should simply turn off the life support systems and let their race die with dignity. "We cannot keep going like this," said Councillor Murthak. His voice was rough and tired. "The ship will not last another year. We should find the nearest habitable world and take our chances." "And if it is already occupied," asked another councillor, "what if the people there do not want us? We have no weapons, no tools to fight with. We can only beg." "Then we beg," Murthak replied. "It is better than dying in the cold darkness." Veltar listened to their arguments but said nothing. He had heard these same words so many times before. His people were proud, and the idea of begging for help from strangers hurt them deeply. The Cathai had once been great explorers and builders. They had created beautiful cities that reached toward the sky. They had sent ships to distant stars and made friends with many alien races. Now they were nothing more than refugees with nowhere to go. The meeting was interrupted by Zaralyn, running into the room. Her crystal patches were flashing bright orange, which meant she was very excited about something. "Captain, you need to hear this," she said, breathing hard from running. She led them back to the communications room and played a recording. Strange sounds came from the speakers, like music but not quite music. Then, suddenly, the sounds changed into words they could understand. "This is Admiral Kim Jiho of the human fleet. We have detected your vessel and see that you are in distress. We offer assistance and safe harbor to you and your people. Please respond if you can hear this message." The room fell completely silent. Veltar stared at the communication panel. In all their years of wandering through space, meeting different alien races, no one had ever offered help without wanting something in return. Usually, when other species found them, they either ignored the dying ship or tried to take what little the Cathai had left. "Who are these humans?" asked Elder Torvas. "I do not know," Zaralyn replied. "I have never heard of them before. They are not in any of our databases. It could be a trap, said Counselor Murthak. They might want to capture us and sell us as slaves. But Veltar looked at the faces around him and saw something he had not seen in a long time. Hope. The crystal patches on their skin were showing tiny flickers of blue and green, the colors of curiosity and possibility. Even if this was a trap, even if these humans wanted to hurt them, what did they really have to lose? The wandering star continued its slow journey through the darkness, but now its people waited for something they had almost forgotten existed. They waited for an answer to their call for help, and for the first time in many years, they dared to hope that someone, somewhere, might actually care about what happened to them. Admiral Kim Ji-ho stood on the bridge of his ship, the New Dawn, looking at the huge alien vessel on the screen in front of him. The ship was enormous, almost 3 times the size of his own flagship, but it looked sick and broken. Patches of different metals covered holes in its hull. Some of its lights were not working, and others flickered weakly like dying candles. How long do you think they have been out here? Asked Dr. Lee Min-ho, standing beside the admiral. He was the chief doctor of the fleet, and had spent the last 2 days preparing medical supplies for whatever they might find. Too long, Ji-ho replied quietly. He had seen refugee ships before, but nothing like this. This vessel looked like it, had been limping through space for decades. Held together only by the determination of whoever was inside. The response from the alien ship had come 12 hours after their first message. The voice that spoke was deep and tired, like someone who had not slept in years. This is Captain Veltar of the Cathay vessel Wandering Star. We accept your offer to talk. Now, preparations were underway for the first meeting. The largest cargo bay on the New Dawn had been cleared and set up with tables and chairs. Dr. Park Suman, their language expert, had worked all night with the ship's computers to create a basic translation system. Everyone was nervous, but excited. First, contact with a new species was rare and special. Remember, Ji-ho told his team as they waited, these people are probably scared and desperate. Let them take their time. Do not make any sudden movements. Show them that we mean no harm. The airlock door opened with a soft hiss, and the aliens walked in. Ji-ho had to stop himself from staring. The Cathay were tall and thin, much taller than humans, with pale skin that seemed to glow softly in the light. But what caught his attention most were the crystal-like patches on their skin. These patches covered their arms, faces, and necks, and they were all showing the same dull gray color. Captain Veltar was clearly very old. His steps were careful and slow, and his crystal patches were darker than the others. Behind him walked 5 other Cathay, including a younger female, whose patches occasionally flickered with tiny sparks of blue light. Captain Veltar Ji-ho said, bowing slightly. Welcome aboard the New Dawn. I am Admiral Kim Ji-ho. The old alien captain studied him for a long moment. You are smaller than I expected, he said through the translation device. Your message said you wanted to help us. What do you want in return? The question surprised Ji-ho. We want nothing in return, Captain. We saw that your ship was in trouble, and we want to help. Veltar's crystal patches flickered slightly, showing tiny flashes of yellow. Dr. Park whispered to Ji-ho that her computer suggested yellow might mean confusion or disbelief. Nothing, Veltar repeated. You expect no payment? No trade goods? No technology? Nothing, Ji-ho confirmed. Please, sit down. Let us talk. Over the next few hours, the story of the Cathay slowly came out. Dr. Park worked with the young female, who was called Zarillin, to improve the translation system. As the words became clearer, the humans began to understand the terrible tragedy that had brought these aliens to their doorstep. The Cathay had once lived on a beautiful world called Kethmer. They had been a peaceful, artistic people who loved to build and create. But their sun had grown sick and unstable. They had tried to fix it, but their technology was not strong enough. In the end, They could only watch as their star collapsed and destroyed everything they had ever known. We saved what we could, Veltar explained, his voice heavy with old grief. 2 million of us escaped in our colony ships. But space is cold and cruel. The other ships, ... they are gone now. Only the wandering star remains. Dr. Lee Minho asked careful questions about their health, and discovered that the Cathai were suffering from malnutrition and various diseases. Their ship's medical systems were failing, and they had lost the knowledge to repair them. Many of their people were giving up hope and simply choosing to die. How many of you are left? Jiho asked gently. Less than 48,000, answered. Her crystal patches showed brief flashes of deep blue, which seemed to mean sadness. The number hit the humans like a physical blow. An entire civilization, reduced to less than 50,000 survivors, drifting through space with no home and no hope. We have food, Dr. Lee said suddenly. Medicine, repair materials. We can help you fix your ship. Why? Veltar asked, and this time his crystal patches showed bright yellow confusion. We are strangers to you. We have nothing to give you. Why would you waste your resources on us? Jiho looked around at his officers and saw the same determination in all their faces. Because it is the right thing to do, he said simply. Because you need help, and we can give it. The old Katai captain stared at him for a long time. Then, for the first time since he had entered the room, his crystal patches showed a tiny flicker of green light. Dr. Park's computer suggested that green might mean hope. The transport ship landed on New Terra with a soft thud, kicking up clouds of red dust. Zerilyn pressed her face against the small window and gasped. The sky above them stretched endlessly in all directions, painted in shades of blue she had never seen before. White clouds drifted across it like floating islands. There was so much space, so much openness. It made her feel dizzy and excited at the same time. Behind her, she heard Elder Torvus make a worried sound. It is too big, he whispered. How can we live under something so vast? Where are the walls? Where is the ceiling? Many of the Cath had the same reaction when they stepped off the transport. Some refused to leave the ship at all. Others took a few steps outside, looked up at the endless sky, and immediately ran back inside. Their crystal patches flashed with bright orange colors that meant fear and panic. Engineer Cho Yunho had been waiting for them at the landing site. He was a kind man with gentle eyes who spoke slowly so the translation devices could keep up. Welcome to New Terra, he said with a big smile. We have prepared a place for you to stay while you decide where you want to build your new home. The temporary shelters were simple but clean. Each family got their own small building with walls and a proper ceiling. This made the Cathai feel a little better, but new problems appeared quickly. The Cathai were used to living all together in the same space, making decisions as one big group. The humans wanted to give each family privacy and independence. This confused the Cathai greatly. Why do you want us to live apart? Elder Torvus asked Cho Hunho during one of their planning meetings. How can we make good decisions if we cannot hear each other think? Cho Hunho scratched his head. The Cathai way of doing things was so different from human ways. When the Cathai needed to decide something, even something small like what to have for dinner, they would all sit together and talk until everyone agreed. This could take hours, or even days. Humans were used to making quick decisions by themselves, or voting and letting the majority choose. Teacher Kim Nari had volunteered to help the Cathai children learn about their new world. She was a patient woman who had taught school for many years, but even she found it difficult. The Cathai children would not answer questions or participate in activities unless their parents and elders gave them permission first. It is not that they are stupid or lazy, she explained to her husband that evening. They are very smart and curious, but they are afraid to do anything without asking their elders first. In their culture, young people must always wait for permission. The biggest problem was with food. The Cathai had lived on recycled nutrients for so long that fresh food made them sick. Dr. Lee Minho worked hard to create special meals that their stomachs could handle, but many of the alien refugees lost weight and became weak. Their crystal patches grew dull and gray, showing their poor health. Zaralyn was one of the few young Cathai who adapted quickly to the new world. She spent hours outside, looking up at the sky and watching the clouds move. She learned human words faster than anyone else and asked endless questions about everything she saw. But this caused problems with her own people. "You are forgetting who you are," Elder Mordock scolded her one day. "You dress like them, you speak like them, you even walk like them. Soon you will not be Cathai anymore." "I am still Cathai," Zaralyn replied, her crystal patches flashing with red anger. "But I am also trying to live in this new place. We cannot stay the same forever." The tension between old and new ways came to a head when a group of older Cathai announced they wanted to return to the Wandering Star. Led by Counselor Murthek, about 200 aliens gathered their few belongings and demanded to be taken back to their old ship. "This world is too strange," Murthek declared. "The food makes us sick. The sky frightens our children. The humans want us to change everything about ourselves. We would rather die in space as true Cathai than live here as something else." Captain Veltar tried to talk them out of leaving, but they would not listen. Pilot Jang Taiho was ordered to take them back to their ship, even though he knew it was dangerous. The Wandering Star was barely holding together, and its life support systems were failing. 3 days later, emergency signals came from the old ship. The life support had finally broken down completely. Jang Taiho and his rescue team worked for hours in the cold darkness, carrying unconscious Cathai back to their shuttles. They saved most of them, but 12 had died from the cold and lack of air. As Jang Taiho helped carry the survivors back to the medical center on New Terra, he realized something important. Saving the Cathai was about more than just giving them food and shelter. They needed to feel like they belonged somewhere. They needed to feel at home. Captain Veltar sat beside the hospital beds where the survivors were recovering. He watched their crystal patches slowly change from black despair back to dim gray exhaustion. His people were not just lost in space anymore. They were lost inside themselves, caught between a past they could never return to and a future they were afraid to embrace. Teacher Kim Nari stood at her kitchen window, watching Zaralyn work in the small garden behind her house. The young Cathai woman moved carefully between the rows of vegetables, her crystal patches glowing soft green as she touched each plant with gentle fingers. It had been 3 months since Nari had invited Zaralyn to live with her family, and the change in both of them had been amazing. "She is like the daughter I always wanted," Nari told her husband that morning. "Smart, curious, and so eager to learn everything." The idea had started small. After the terrible incident, when some Cathai had almost died trying to return to their old ship, Admiral Kim Ji-ho had called a meeting with all the human families on New Terra. "We need to do more than just give them houses and food," he had said. "They need to feel like they belong somewhere. They need family." At first, many people were nervous about the idea. Living with aliens seemed scary and difficult. What if they could not understand each other? What if their customs were too different? But slowly, one by one, human families began to open their homes. Nari had been the first to volunteer. She taught at the local school and had always been good with young people who felt lost or confused. When she met Zaralyn, she saw a bright, lonely girl who just needed someone to believe in her. "You can stay with us as long as you want," Nari had told her, "not as a guest, but as part of our family." Zaralyn had been confused at first. In Cathai culture, families were only made of blood relatives. The idea of choosing your family was completely new to her. But as days passed, she began to understand. When Nari helped her with her human language lessons, when she shared stories about her work at school, when she worried about Zaralyn catching cold in this strange weather, it felt like having a Mother again. Across town, retired engineer Nam Doyen was having his own breakthrough. He had volunteered to work with Elder Torvas on building better farms for the Cathai settlement. At first, their meetings had been awkward and slow. Torvas was proud and formal, and he did not trust human technology. Doyen was impatient with the Cathai's endless group discussions about every small decision. But as they worked together day after day, something changed. Doyen learned that the Catho had incredible knowledge about growing plants in artificial environments. Their old ship had used amazing biological systems that could produce food with very little water or energy. Torvas discovered that human farming methods, combined with natural soil and sunlight, could grow bigger and healthier crops than anything they had ever imagined. "Look at this," Torvas said one morning, holding up a tomato that was twice the size of normal ones. His crystal patches were bright blue with excitement. "Your earth methods and our biotechniques together, we created something neither of us could make alone." The breakthrough moment came when Zerilyn announced she was in love. She had met Minsu, Nari's nephew, who worked as a communications officer at the spaceport. He was quiet and kind, with a gentle sense of humor that made Zerilyn's crystal patches shimmer with happiness. "I want to marry him," she told Nari one evening, "but I do not know if it is allowed. Cathai and humans have never married before." The news caused excitement and worry in both communities. Some Cathai elders were upset about mixing the two species. Some humans wondered if such a marriage could really work. But Captain Veltar surprised everyone by giving his blessing. "Love is love," the old captain said. "If these two young people can find happiness together, who are we to stop them?" The wedding was held in the main square of the new Cathai settlement. It was unlike anything anyone had ever seen before. Zerilyn wore traditional Cathai crystal ornaments that made her skin patches glow like stars. Minsu wore his best human formal clothes, but also carried a Cathai memory stone, a gift from Elder Torvas. The ceremony mixed both cultures. A human minister spoke about love and commitment, while a Cathai elder performed the ancient ritual of joining crystals. When Zerilyn and Minsu kissed, her crystal patches exploded in brilliant colors of joy, and the crowd cheered in two different languages. Dr. Park Suman worked with Cathai historians to record their stories and traditions. She learned about their beautiful memory-keeping practices, where important events were stored in special crystals that could be shared from person to person. The humans were amazed by this technology and began using it to preserve their own history. In return, the Cathai learned about human celebrations and community service. They had never understood why humans would spend their free time helping strangers, but slowly they began to see the joy in it. When a storm damaged the human settlement, Cathai volunteers worked alongside their human neighbors to rebuild the damaged houses. The settlement of New Viridian grew into something beautiful and unique. The buildings mixed Cathai crystal architecture with human design ideas. Streets curved and flowed like rivers, lined with gardens that used both species' knowledge of growing things. Children played together, switching between languages without thinking about it. Elder Torvas worked with Nam Doyen to establish new trade relationships with other human colonies. The Cathai's advanced biotechnology and stellar navigation knowledge became valuable resources, while humans provided manufacturing, skills, and raw materials. What had started as a rescue mission became a true partnership between equals. 10 years had passed since the first Cathai refugees landed on New Terra. Captain Veltar, now much older and walking with a wooden cane, stood in the observation deck of the old wandering star. The massive ship no longer drifted through empty space. Instead, it orbited peacefully above New Terra, converted into a museum and memorial for future generations to remember their journey. Through the large windows, Veltar could see the planet below. The city of New Viridian sparkled like a jewel. On the surface, its crystal towers and flowing gardens visible even from space. Lights twinkled in patterns that showed where humans and Cathai lived and worked together. It was more beautiful than anything he had ever imagined when his people were dying in the cold darkness. "Great-grandfather, come quickly." A young voice called out in perfect human language, mixed with Cathai words. Veltar turned to see his great-granddaughter, Lyra, running toward him. She was 7 years old, with the tall, graceful build of the Cathai, but the curious, energetic personality that seemed to come from growing up with human children. Her crystal patches glowed bright, green with excitement, and her dark hair was braided with small human-style ribbons. "What is it, little star?" Veltar asked, using the pet name he had given her. "The new ship is launching today. Captain Lee said we can watch from the memorial garden. All my friends are there already." Lyra grabbed his hand and pulled him gently toward the shuttle bay. As they walked, Veltar marveled at how natural everything seemed to her. She spoke both languages without thinking about which was which. She played games that mixed Cathai memory techniques with human imagination. To her, having friends from two different species was not strange at all. It was simply normal life. The memorial garden was crowded with both humans and Cathai families. Children sat on their parents' shoulders to get a better view. Elderly Cathai elders chatted with human grandparents in the mixed language that had developed naturally over the years. Everyone was excited to see the launch of the family of stars, the first deep space exploration ship crewed by both species together. "There she is," said Teacher Kim Nari, pointing to the sleek silver ship that was slowly moving away from the orbital station. She stood next to Zerilyn, who now had 2 young children of her own. Both women had grown older, but their friendship had only grown stronger over the years. Zerilyn held her youngest child, a baby whose crystal patches sparkled with inherited colors from both parents. Her older son, 5-year-old Ji-ho, was half human and half Cathai, with crystal patches that showed emotions in ways that amazed the doctors. He was proof that the two species could not only live together, but create something entirely new. "Captain Lee Soyan 2, New Terra Control," came the voice over the communication system. "All systems are working perfectly. We are ready to begin our journey to the Andromeda region." Lee Soyan was Admiral Kim Ji-ho's daughter, now a captain in her own right. She had grown up hearing stories about the day her father first met the Cathai refugees. Those stories had inspired her to join the space service and work toward this moment when both species could explore the galaxy together. Dr. Zerilyn reporting all science systems ready, came another voice, the same young Cathai who had once been terrified of the endless. Sky was now the chief scientist on humanity's most advanced exploration vessel. She had studied at human universities, earned advanced degrees, and become an expert in both human and Cathai technology. Elder Torvas stood next to his old friend Nam Do-yan, both men now in their 80s. "Do you remember when I was afraid to change even one small thing about our farming methods?" Torvas asked with a laugh that made his crystal patches glow warm yellow. "And now look," Nam replied, pointing to the vast agricultural zones visible on the planet below. "Our crops feed 12 different colonies. Cathai biotechnology and human engineering working together." The family of stars slowly picked up speed as its engines glowed brighter. It would spend the next 5 years exploring distant star systems, looking for new worlds and new species to meet. Half of its crew were human, half were Cathai, and all of them were excited to carry their shared knowledge to the far reaches of the galaxy. Captain Veltar watched the ship disappear into the distance, becoming just another bright point among the stars. He pulled out his personal memory crystal, a Cathai device that could record thoughts and experiences to be shared with others. This would be his final entry, the last chapter in the story of his people's long journey. "We thought we were the last of our kind," he spoke into the crystal, his voice strong despite his age. "We thought family meant only those who shared our blood and our birth world, but we learned something wonderful. Family is not about where you come from. It is about the people who choose to stand beside you, who share your happiness and your sadness, who help you build something better than what you had before. He looked down at little Lyra, who was pointing excitedly at the stars and asking her human friends to help her count them. Her crystal patches glowed with pure joy, and her laughter mixed with the voices of children from both species. The Cathai had been lost in the darkness of space, but in being found, they had discovered something far more precious than their old homeworld. They had found their place in a family that stretched across the stars,